Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing never say this to your ex. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing never say this to your ex. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you need to be prepared for how to communicate with your ex. In today's podcast, I'll be telling you 3 things that you should never say to your ex if you want to try to get them back into a relationship. So let's get straight into this. And point number 1 is, can we have a chat? So when we're speaking about today, never say this to your ex. The first thing I don't believe you should be saying to an ex is, can we have a chat? Now, I need to explain this because it sounds something which is not too bad. That doesn't really sound very bad to say, can we have a chat? Communication is vital, of course. But please let me explain my reasoning. So when we're talking about trying to get an ex back and what you shouldn't be saying, I'm referring to post-breakup. I'm not speaking about pre-breakup. I'm not speaking about during the breakup. I'm talking about post-breakup. So this isn't when you are in a relationship. Of course, it's very important to have a conversation, to have a chat. This isn't during the breakup. Maybe in whatever way you were dumped, unfortunately, there would be some back and forth between you and the opportunity to have a conversation and try and see if it's possible to sort things out before the breakup is finalised. Of course, at that point, it is okay to ask if you can have a chat. But I'm speaking about post-breakup, when the dust has settled, in the weeks and months and potentially years following your breakup and the end of your relationship. I do not believe, if you want to try to get your ex back, that you should be asking your ex, can we have a chat? Now, first of all, I don't believe in most instances you as a dumpee should reach out to your ex-dumper anyway. Now, there are some caveats to this generalised rule, but by and large, I believe that if you have been dumped, you should never contact your ex again unless they contact you first. So this isn't about you reaching out to your ex either. This is about if your ex-dumper reaches out to you, and you then engage in a conversation. At that stage, I don't suggest you say the words, or in your own words, can we have a chat? Now, first of all, the reason why I suggest this is because you would actually be already having a conversation. If your ex-dumper has reached out to you, you then don't need to be asking, can we have a chat? Because if you do that, not only does it not make a lot of sense, but it does suggest the context of something more serious. So if, for instance, your ex-dumper reaches out to you and you're having some back and forth in a very laid-back, casual kind of way, if you then were to say to them, can we have a chat, that automatically makes your ex-dumper feel that you want to take the conversation in a more serious direction. And if you were to ask that question, I'm sure that is exactly what you mean. That is exactly what you're hoping for. Maybe you don't quite understand why your ex-dumper has reached out to you and you want to try and clarify this by having a serious discussion. I do not suggest you do this if you want to try to get your ex back. In most instances, if you receive contact from your dumper, I suggest that you proceed in a way which firstly acknowledges and answers what it is they're actually asking you, but then moves into a more casual, relaxed type of communication, remembering those key words: happy, carefree, and fun. Those are the words you need to remember. That is the way to try and re-attract an ex. That is the way to try and bring your ex closer towards you rather than pushing them away. We don't want your ex-dumper running a mile because they feel that you're adding pressure. We don't want your ex-dumper feeling scared and not wanting to engage with you any further because we're not entirely sure what you are going to say to them if you were to say in your own words, can we have a chat? Now, of course, it goes without saying that this is a level of common sense that you're going to have in your mindset regarding the context of everything that is being said between you and your ex. I can't be with you every step of the way during this conversation. You're going to be on your own somewhat at least. Even if you were to speak with me via my audio coaching service perhaps, I'm not going to be with you if and when your ex contacts you. So you've got to really feel the situation, read the room, understand how things are going, and try to take things in the best possible direction. And generally speaking, that is to keep things light-hearted, kind, happy, positive, not by behaving in a way where you're trying to make things very serious, certainly very quickly. Now, if you were to progress your connection through conversation, maybe meeting, hopefully get into a stage where you might actually both be considering getting back together, there is going to have to be a time where you do bring up certain key elements, sadly, regarding your connection and what went wrong in the past. But when you do this, it needs to be timed very, very carefully. And in some instances, sometimes things don't even need to be said because there's just an understanding that things have progressed and moved forward from that point. Maybe such a conversation would actually take place post-reconnecting. Now, of course, it does depend exactly what has happened, why and when. And that's why I'm speaking about you need to have a degree of common sense here. But by and large, if you are considering asking your ex, can we have a chat? Firstly, I don't believe you should be reaching out to them, generally speaking. And secondly, if your ex-dumper has reached out to you first, don't make things too serious. Don't try and scare your ex off by making the conversation very, very important and serious and really referencing things which could make your ex pull away and run away from you before you even have a chance to reconnect on any level at all. Keep things light-hearted, happy, carefree and fun, and re-attract them. Don't chase them away. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And point number 2 is I can't be happy without you. So today we're speaking about things that I don't believe you should ever say to your ex if you want to try to get them back into a relationship. And point number 2, the second thing I don't think you should be saying is, in your own words, I can't be happy without you. Now you might think, well, that sounds great. That's kind of telling my ex how much I love them, how much I need them, how much they mean to me. But unfortunately, most of the time, this isn't going to help you because the power balance between you will not be level. The scales of value will not be level. You will be giving them power over your happiness. And this is not the thing to do if you want to try to get your ex back. Now, I'm not saying your ex-dumper will even know what I'm about to say. They won't even necessarily realise what is going off in their mindset. But subconsciously, if you let them know that they have you on strings, that they are the puppet master and you are the puppet, that is not going to be attractive for them. And you want to be trying to re-attract your ex. If you tell them that you don't feel happy without them, if you tell them that you can't move forward with your life in a positive way without them by your side, if you tell them that they hold the key to your happiness, or whatever it is you might want to say in your own words, this isn't going to help them feel more attraction towards you. Even though you might think you're saying kind things, you are giving up your power. You are telling your ex that you are a low-value individual and you can only have value if they are with you. That's not attractive. You want to be a high-value individual. You want to be someone who can really hold space with your ex-dumper. You want to be someone who can really hold the relationship on a level, even scales of value. This is not a situation that if you tell them that you are crumbling without them, that they're going to think, oh yes, now I want to get back with my ex. Now, very, very occasionally, you might get a dumper who does reconnect with a dumpee based on the things that I've just said you shouldn't be saying. But if they were to do that, it is more likely to be regarding pity, worry, and concern rather than genuine, legitimate romantic attraction. And there lies the problem. You don't want your ex back if they don't feel romantic feelings towards you. You don't want your ex back if they feel pity, worry, fear. You don't want your ex back in that regard because it's not real, it's not genuine, and it won't last. People who get their ex back through anything but romantic love are unlikely to have a relationship which lasts the test of time or even that long at all. And there lies the risk. If you want to tell your ex how much they mean to you in a way that devalues yourself, you are not likely to get them back ever in the right way. Occasionally, in the wrong way, which won't last forever. Most of the time, you won't get them back at all. Remember, there is nothing wrong with showcasing your feelings within a relationship. There's nothing wrong with telling someone how you feel in the connection. But if you're trying to get somebody back, you can't be begging and pleading in a way which is suggesting that you are nothing without them, because it doesn't make them feel attracted to you. It makes them feel worried and concerned and somewhat cautious of someone who could be begging and pleading so much. It's not an attractive position. So please, if you get a chance to speak with your ex, if your dumper reaches out to you, don't respond to them and say, "Oh, I'm so glad you've messaged me. I've not been happy a single moment without you." Don't say those types of things. It's not going to help you. It's not going to make them think, "Oh yeah, I'm really glad I reached out to my dumpy." If anything, it's going to make them run a mile. And that is not what you want. If you want them back, you need to try and remain as positive and stable-minded as possible. You need to make sure that the scales of value are somewhat even. And although you want to be showing yourself as happy that they've reached out to you, you don't want to be suggesting that you're living your life in a way where you can't cope without them. No, you need to be presenting yourself as someone who is living your life every single day, improving every single day and enjoying every single day, because with or without them, you will have a positive future, and they need to feel that through an interaction with you. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about never say this to your ex. And point number 3 is, "Oh, here you are," or something to that effect. So point number 3 is the concept of where you respond to your ex in a way which is negative. Now, the way I've just worded that is probably the calmest version of a negative response, but I'm not going to be getting into all of the things you could be saying. You're just going to have to use your imagination. But if you receive contact from your dumper and you think straight away, okay, here they are. I thought they'd come back to me. It's taken a few months, but I knew they would. So you're not having a great life without me, are you? You're not enjoying life. You haven't met anybody better. You're coming crawling back. If you're thinking those thoughts, please don't type them in a message back to your ex. This is not going to help. You as a dumpy might feel that your ex-dumper deserves anything you want to say to them. You might feel that you can say anything you want and they deserve it. But remember, if you want them back in a relationship, is creating a situation where there's negativity around, is that going to help? Is it going to help to start an argument? Is it going to help to call them names? Is it going to help to try and call them out and make them feel bad? Is that going to help you get your ex back? Remember the point here. We're talking about dumpees who want to reconnect with their dumper. We're not talking about dumpees who want nothing more to do with their ex. That's different. Not that I would suggest you be negative anyway, but if you don't want your ex back, then there isn't the concern that if you do, the way you need to behave, the way you need to proceed. If you receive contact from your dumper for an unnecessary reason, it is because they've started to regrow romantic emotional attraction. It may have not hit the necessary high point for them to want to reconnect with you in a relationship yet, but certainly it's hit a high point for them to want to reach out. Things are moving in the right direction. If you want your ex back, that's a good thing. That should be celebrated. That should be a positive interaction with you responding in a way which makes them want to respond to you once more. Now, the communication stage can be choppy waters, and I offer through my audio coaching service plans of action and strategy about if and when you hear from your ex, about what best to do in your situation. But by and large, what I can tell you right now is that being negative is not going to help. And this is what I'm talking about. If you respond by saying anything within your own words, such as, "Oh, here you are, I knew you'd come crawling back. Didn't you find anybody better than me? Are you bored? Is that why you're messaging me?" If you respond in anything like that, any way similar to that, that is not going to bring your ex closer. It's just going to cause an argument, probably at best an argument where your ex responds, but at worst, they'll probably just stop responding to you, maybe even block you from that point. If they've reached out to you, they're thinking about you, they're not going to want to get in a negative back and forth argument. I do not suggest you behave in a negative way if you want your ex back. If you feel they deserve it, then you need to really ask yourself, do you want them back? Do you really want them back? Because if you hold that negativity in your heart, is not going to make a relationship possible. You need to forgive them, just as they need to forgive you if there is anything that they feel you have done in the past. There needs to be a lot of empathy towards one another, forgiving one another, and positivity with one another. Not negativity, not trying to be argumentative, not trying to prove a point. It's not going to get you what you're ultimately wanting, which is reconnection. So please don't say any of the things that we've spoke about in today's podcast. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.